Welcome to Wisdom Time. You know, for so many women of faith, the modern workplace can feel like a real tightrope walk. How do you build a meaningful career and, at the same time, stay true to your deepest values? Well, that's exactly what we're getting into today.
So let's just put the question right out there. Can a woman work in today's mixed-gender world and still protect her personal and spiritual boundaries? The answer, as you might guess, isn't a simple yes or no. The core principle might be there, but the world we live in now, it's a completely different reality than the past. To really unpack this, here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll look at the challenges we're all facing today. Then we'll take a trip back to the prophetic era. After that, we'll compare those two worlds, see how that disconnect shows up in our lives, and then we'll wrap it all up.
All right, let's start right here, in the now. While the basic Islamic principles don't actually forbid men and women working together, the 21st century has, well, it's thrown a whole bunch of new hurdles in our way. I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got the physical design of open-plan offices. You've got this huge cultural pressure to be super casual all the time. And then there's that nonstop influence from TV, the internet, social media. All of this stuff together creates this unique psychological environment that makes keeping those boundaries a constant active effort. It's why you can't just look at the past for easy answers, but that's exactly where we need to start to understand the difference.
So let's journey back to the prophetic era. You know, there's this common idea that women were just kept at home, out of sight. But the source material we're looking at, it paints a totally different picture. Women back then were out there, they were visible, and they were absolutely vital to public life.
They were right there in the mosque for prayers. They were out in the fields working in agriculture. They were in the marketplace running businesses. I mean, there were even women in roles we might think of as civil service today, like market inspectors. They were artisans, they were medics on the battlefield, they were a core part of the society.
So this is really the heart of it. The question was never, can women be out in public? History shows us they absolutely were. The real issue, the thing that makes it so challenging for us, is that society itself has gone through a massive, fundamental change. And there are some incredible stories that show us just how different that reality was.
Okay, picture this. A woman, on her own initiative, walks up directly to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and proposes marriage. Just like that.
Just listen to those words. The confidence, the honesty, the sheer naturalness of it. This wasn't seen as shameful or forward. It was just a person expressing a real need with complete dignity. It's amazing. And here's another one for you. A woman asks for a divorce, and the reason? It's not because her husband was a bad guy or because he wasn't religious. It was because she just wasn't physically attracted to him, and she was honest enough to worry that this would stop her from being a good wife. And you know what? Her concern was taken seriously. Her feelings mattered. And when you put the two eras side by side like this, wow, the difference is just staggering. Back then, you had this natural, honest expression of needs. Life was simpler. Faith was this fresh, deeply lived experience. Society was built from Islamic culture. Today, so often we feel like we have to suppress our feelings, life is incredibly complex, and society is shaped by 1,000 other influences. Now, this gap between then and now, it's not just some interesting historical fact. We see the consequences of it all around us, literally built into the walls of our mosques and our offices. I mean, just ask yourself this question. With all the money and modern architecture we have, why is it that so many brand new mosques still have prayer spaces for women that feel like an afterthought? You know, cramped, impractical, uncomfortable.
Well, the source suggests it's not just a design flaw. It actually comes from a kind of defensive thinking. This underlying fear that, hey, if we make the space too nice, we might be encouraging women to be out of the house more.
It's a way of thinking that just refuses to accept the reality that women are already out in the world and need spaces that actually work for them. And we see this exact same kind of problem in professional spaces. Take hospitals, for example. Their design has evolved from a cultural background that doesn't necessarily prioritize the same ideas of privacy and interaction that are central to an Islamic worldview. So, the result is what many of us experience every day: workplaces that just weren't designed from the ground up to support our values. The architecture often lacks privacy, and the way work is structured can force all these unnecessary casual interactions, which just makes it that much harder to maintain those professional boundaries we want to keep.
Now, what's really interesting here is how this connects our big, abstract values to the concrete, everyday spaces we live and work in. Okay, before we get to our conclusion, if you're finding this explainer valuable, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like our video, and turn on that notification bell. It really helps more people find our work. So we've seen the past, we've looked at the present. Where on earth do we go from here?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We can't just hit copy-paste on solutions from 1,000 years ago. It won't work. Why? Because our inner world, our emotional landscape, our psychology is completely different now.
The source brings up a really interesting modern paradox. In a world that's always throwing stimulants at us, a lot of people feel like the only way to stay chaste is to just switch off, to suppress all those natural feelings, from their teenage years all the way until marriage. But that strategy, that total denial, can end up causing a whole host of other unexpected problems later in life.
And this, right here, is the complex knot we have to untangle. We don't get a simple, one-size-fits-all answer. What we're left with is the great question for our generation. Living in this new reality, with all of its new pressures, how do we build a world, workplaces, communities, institutions, that lets us be full participants in life, while also making it easier, not harder, to hold on to the values we cherish? That's the challenge ahead of us.